Oh, thank you. Chamomile. My hands are cold. You're such a sweetheart. Oh, this is hot. I see. You figured with the rain pouring down, I should read to you, Well, we did come up to this cabin to go on hikes and explore, but it is raining rather hard. You're adorable. How can I say no to you? Come on, lay down on the couch. Yeah, there's a great view from here, but it's still warm. Did you want some of my tea? Huh? Suit yourself. I think this is still a bit hot. Just like you. So hot. I will have to wait to drink that. You're so good to me. Let's see. What page were we on? Alrighty, boys. I really need to find my bookmark. Let's see. Chapter 3. Here we are. The threat. You're getting to be pretty good on that motorcycle, Frank, Joe said as the boys rode into the Hardy garage. I'm not even scared to ride alongside you anymore. You're not scared, Frank pretended to take Joe seriously. What about me riding with a daredevil like you? Well, Joe countered, let's just admit that we're both pretty good. It sure was swell of Dad to let us have them, Joe continued. Yes, Frank agreed, and if we're going to be detectives, we'll get a lot of use out of them. The boys started toward the house, passing the old-fashioned barn on the property. Its first floor had been converted into a gymnasium which was used after school and on weekends by Frank and Joe and their friends. Sounds like they're working out. Eye candy. The Hardy home on the corner of High and Elm Street was an old stone house set in a large tree-shaded lawn. Right now, crocuses and miniature narcissi were sticking their head through the light green grass, just like now here. Hello, Mother, said Frank as she pushed open the kitchen door. Hello, Miss Hardy. Oh, Miss Hardy, a petite, pretty woman. Oh, sounds like someone. Looked up from the table on which she was stuffing a large roasted chicken and smiled. Her sons kissed her affectionately, and Joe asked, Dad upstairs? Yes, dear, he's in the study. The study was Fenton Hardy's workshop. Adjoining it was a fine library, which contained not only books, but files of disguises, records of criminal cases, and translations of thousands of codes. Oh, that sounds delicious. Walking into the study, Frank and Joe greeted their father. We're reporting errand accomplished, Frank announced. Fine, Mr. Hardy replied. Then he gave his sons a searching glance. I'd say your trip netted you more than just my errand. Frank and Joe had learned early in their boyhood that it was impossible to keep any secret from their astute father. Oops. Sounds like you. You never could lie, though. Shush, it's one of my favorite things about you. They assumed that this ability was one reason why he had been such a successful detective on the New York City police force before setting up a private practice in Bayport. We ran into some real excitement, Frank said, and told his father the whole story of Chet's missing jalopy, the wrecked car which they suspected had been a stolen one also, and the attempted holdup at the ferryboat office. Chet's counting on us to find his car, Joe added. Frank grinned. That is, unless the police find it first. Mr. Hardy was quiet. Mr. Hardy was silent for several seconds. Then he said, Do you want a little advice? You know, I never give it unless I'm asked for it. He chuckled. I need to work on that one. Someday. We'll need a lot of help, Joe answered. Mr. Harding said that to him the most interesting angle to the case was the fact that the suspect apparently used one or more wigs as a disguise. He may have bought at least one of them in Bayport. Well, I suggest you boys make the rounds to all the shops selling wigs and see what you can find out. The boys glanced at the clock on their father's large desk. Then Frank said, "We'll have time to do a little sleuthing before closing time. Let's go." The two boys made a dash for the door, then stopped short. They did not have the slightest idea where they were going. Sheepishly, Joe asked, "Dad, do you know which stores sell wigs?" Now it's perfect. Thank you, cutie. With a twinkle in his eyes, Mr. Hardy arose from the desk, walking into the library, and opened a file drawer labeled W through Z. A moment later, he was pulling out a thick folder marked Wigs. Manufacturers, distributors, and retail shops of the world. "Why, Dad, I didn't know you had all of this information," Joe began. His father merely smiled. He thumbed through the hairy sheaf of papers and pulled one out. "Bayport," he said. "Well, 3 of these places can be eliminated at once. They sell only women's hair pieces. Now, let's see. Frank, get a paper and a pencil. First, there's Schwartz's Masquerade and Costume Shop. It's at 79 Renshaw Avenue. Then there's Flint's at Market and Pine, and one more, Reuben Brothers. That's on Main Street, just this side of the railroad." "Schwartz's is closest," Frank spoke up. "Let's try him first, Joe." Hopefully, the boys dashed out to their motorcycles and hurried downtown. As they entered Schwartz's shop, a short, plump, smiling man came toward them. "Well, you got in just under the wire, fellows," he said, looking up at the large, old-fashioned clock on the wall. "I was going to close up promptly tonight because a big shipment came in today. I never have time, except after business hours, to unpack and list my merchandise." "Our errand won't take long," said Frank. "We're sons of Fenton Hardy, the detective. We'd like to know whether or not you recently sold a red wig to a man." So good. Mr. Schwartz shook his head. "I haven't sold a red wig in months, or even rented one. Everybody seems to want blonde or brown or black lately, but you understand, I don't usually sell wigs at all. I rent them." "I understand," said Frank. "We're just trying to find out about a man who uses a red wig as a disguise. We thought he might have bought it or rented it here and that you would know his name." Mr. Schwartz leaned across the counter. "This man you speak of, he sounds like a character. It's just possible he may come in to get a wig from me. If he does, I'll be glad to let you know." The boys thanked the shopkeeper and were about to leave when Mr. Schwartz called, "Hold on a minute." The Hardy boys hoped that the dealer had suddenly remembered something important. This was not the case, however. With a grin, the man asked the boys if they would like to help him open some cartons which had arrived and try on the costumes. "Those folks at the factories don't always get the sizes marked right," he said. "Would you be able to stay a few minutes and help me? I'll be glad to pay you." "Oh, we don't want any money," Joe spoke up. "To tell you the truth, I'd like to see your costumes." Mr. Schwartz locked up the front of his shop, then led the boys into a rear room. It was so filled with costumes of all kinds and paraphernalia for theatrical work, plus piles of cartons that Frank and Joe wondered how the man could ever find anything. "Here's today's shipment," Mr. Schwartz said, pointing to 6 cartons standing not far from the rear entrance to his shop. Together, he and the boys slit open the boxes and one by one lifted out a king's robe, a queen's tiara, and a little Bo Peep costume. Suddenly, Mr. Schwartz said, "Here's a skeleton marked size 38. Would one of you boys mind trying it on?" Frank picked up the costume, unzipped the back, and stepped into the skeleton outfit. It was tremendous on him, and the ribs sagged ludicrously. "Guess a larger man modeled for this," he remarked, holding the garment out to its full width. At that moment, there was a loud rap on the front door of the store. Mr. Schwartz made no move to answer it. "I'm closed," he said. "Let 'em rap." Suddenly Frank had an idea. The thief who used wigs might be the late customer coming on purpose at this hour to avoid meeting other people. Without a word to the others, he dashed through the doorway into the store and toward the front entrance. Dun, dun, dun. He could vaguely see someone waiting to be admitted, but the stranger gave one look at the leaping, out-of-shape skeleton and disappeared in a flash. At the same moment, Frank tripped and fell headlong. Mr. Schwartz and Joe, hearing the crash, rushed out to see what had happened. Frank, hopelessly tangled in the skeleton attire, was helped to his feet. When he told the others why he had made his unsuccessful dash to the front door, they conceded he might have a point. "But you sure scared him away in that outfit," Joe said, laughing. "He won't be back." The boys stayed for over half an hour helping Mr. Schwartz, then said goodbye and went home. "Monday we'll tackle those other 2 wig shops," said Frank. The following morning, the Hardy family attended church. Then after dinner, Frank and Joe told their parents they were going to ride out to see Chet Morton. "We've been invited to stay to supper," Frank added, "but we promised not to get home late." The Hardys picked up Callie Shaw, who also had been invited. Gaily, she perched on the seat behind Frank. "Hold on, Callie," he teased. "Frank is a wild cyclist." The young people were greeted at the door of the Morton farmhouse by Chet's younger sister, Iola. Dark-haired and pretty, Joe Hardy thought she was quite the nicest girl in Bayport High and dated her regularly. This dating her regularly is hilarious. It must be quite a dated statement. As dusk came on, the 5 young people gathered in the Mortons' kitchen to prepare supper. Chet, who loved to eat, was in charge and doled out various jobs to the others. When he finished, Joe remarked, "And what are you going to do, big boy?" The stout youth grinned. "I'm the official taster." A howl went up from the others. "No worky, no eaty," said Iola flatly. Chet grinned. "Oh, well, if you insist, I'll make a little side dish for all of us. How about Welsh rabbit?" "You're elected," the others chorused, and Chet set to work. The farmhouse kitchen was large and contained a group of windows in one corner. Here stood a large table where the young people decided to eat. They had just sat down when the telephone rang. Chet got up and walked out to the hall to answer it. Within a minute, he re-entered the kitchen, his eyes bulging. "What's the matter?" Iola asked quickly. I've been threatened," Chet replied. "Threatened?" the others cried out. "How?" Chet was so frightened he could hardly speak, but he managed to make the others understand that a man had just said on the phone, "You'll never get your jalopy back, and if you don't lay off trying to find me or your car, you're going to get hurt." "Whew," cried Joe. "This is getting serious." Callie and Iola clutched their throats and were staring wild-eyed at Chet. Frank, about to speak, happened to glance out the window toward the barn. For an instant, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But no, they were not. A figure was sneaking from the barn and down the lane toward the highway. "Fellows," he cried suddenly, "follow me." Oh my, dun dun dun. Well, that was a whole chapter. What do you mean you want more? Oh, no. I'm going to say no. Tell you what. I'll play with your hair. And we'll watch the rain for a while together. And if I get good and sleepy, we'll go snuggle and take a nap. We could just sleep right here. I'm comfortable. Are you comfortable? Oh, you're the cutest sub I think I've ever had. Boop. Go to sleep. Enjoy the smell of rain. for coming with me to the cabin. Good night. If you're still listening, for shame, you're supposed to be sleeping. That's okay. Sometimes it's hard, isn't it? Hard to get to sleep. If you liked this, if you would like more content, come follow me at Patreon. I'm in Reddit a little bit, but not much anymore. And you can always just stay here and like the things that you enjoy. Maybe subscribe. Maybe if you're really good, click that bell. you still awake? If you fell asleep, sweet dreams, darling. If you, like me, are sometimes still awake at the end of these, I just wanted to tell you how fun these are getting. It's starting to turn into a little loving girlfriend storyline. More to come. And the winner of the games in Discord behind Patreon gets a personalized version of a chapter once a month. So if you want to play, come play